Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what time you're watching this right now. I trust you're doing great. Yeah. So I want to share with you how I was able to catch this setup on NZDCHF recently. Okay. So I'm going to show you this breakdown on my chart. Let's get into the chart immediately so I can give you the step-by-step breakdown of how I was able to come about the setup on NZDCHF. Now, starting from the daily time frame. This is NZDCHF on the daily time frame. You want to pay close attention so that you can understand the analysis. Okay, so if you look at the trend, the first thing you always want to ask yourself as a trader is what is the trend of the market? Because that way you're able to tell whether you are to follow for a buy or whether you are to position for a sell. So this is a bearish trend when you see price making a series of highs, lows, lower highs, and lower lows. So this is a clear bearish trend. And if you look at it, what I drew here is similar to what's happening on the daily time frame on NZDCHF. We've seen series of lows, highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, indicating that the trend of this pair is bearish. So that was the first thing I saw. And I said, okay, yeah, so the trend is bearish. Now, how do we position for a sell? How do we look out for a sell trade on it since the overall trend is bearish? Now, if you look at what also happened here, you would realize that this is a zone, right? This is a support region because price tapped into this level here and then pushed to the upside, and then we saw it again around this level, indicating that okay, this is still a zone that price is yet to, this is still a zone that price has not, that can still hold. Yeah, so we have that it made a breakout. It served as support here in the past. So usually what happens when price breaks a level, either a support or a resistance, in this case it broke out of this level. Look at it here. And then when we see that breakout, we usually expect that price will go for a retest. After that retest happens, we expect a continuation. So previous support turning to resistance, that was another confirmation that we could get ready, that I should get ready to position for a sell. So previous support rather, turning to resistance was another confirmation. So you can see how we're building up. So the first is the overall trend, which is bearish. Current, at the time I saw the setup, price was hovering around this area of resistance. Now let's go to the 4-hour time frame to see how that further played out. So now we have two confluences. All right. Okay, so this is it. This is the 4-hour chart. And from what we have here, I was only just paying attention to the most recent price action area. And that really would help you cut out a lot of noise that usually happens, or older price charts, right? I'm sure you get the gist. So I was focusing on the most recent price action area, and then we saw, if you look at it from here, we've seen series of breakouts of the bearish pattern. Look at, this is a break of structure to the downside. Yeah. And then we had this other breakout retest. Let's see, this is an example of what I just said earlier as well. When price breaks out of an area of resistance, what people usually call break of structure, yes, is break of structure. And then when a break of structure happens, we expect that previous support to turn to resistance. And that's exactly what price did here. And then it made another further push to the downside. So this right here is another break of structure. So this was what made me to look out for sales around here, because at this point here, we had this break of structure. When price made the breakout, a retest, and then another drop, making another breakout around this zone. So what did I do? I just placed the horizontal ray around here. Yes, so I placed the horizontal ray around here because I was expecting that price would react from this zone. Yes, this is a previous support that made a breakout and then turned to resistance. And if you know the basics of support and resistance, I think I've made a video on it. You can check the previous video on this platform on support and resistance. So what happens normally is when price gets to an area of resistance, we're going to see, well, there's a very high chance that we'll see selling pressure. We see sellers coming in to push the price down. Now, especially that the overall trend here is bearish. So we're expecting more sellers, more bearish move to the downside. So price tapped into this area of resistance very, very nicely. And it was so clear that, okay, we're getting ready to take on a sell trade. And after that, it also took out liquidity. It also took out liquidity for early. Let me take this off. So I was focused on this part here because I noticed that it took out liquidity that was resting above this zone. Yes, so liquidity for those who sold in earlier around here, so price took them out. You know how that you have positioned for a sell very early, but then you see market movers take out early sellers and still drop price in your direction. I don't know if you've experienced that before. Yeah, that's liquidity hunt right there. So that liquidity happened. And I was beginning to get ready for, because all the confluences were directing or were pointing towards the downside. So I was getting ready to position for that sell that happened on NZDCHF recently. So then we got this breakout. Let me go back to this is okay. So look at it. This was the liquidity drop. That's why I marked this place here, because this serves as liquidity. And then that push to the drop, that push to the downside happened. So when I saw that it had made a break inside of here, inside of this structure point here, I was anticipating that retest before a further drop to the downside. And you can see my chart, I just narrowed down everything to the most recent price action area. And that is exactly how you want to trade, so that you are paying attention to what matters. You are paying attention to the most important areas of the market. So I was anticipating that drop after that retest. And if you look at what happened on the chart, that's exactly what happened. So the price dropped and made that retest. And if you also look closely, you would see that you see candlestick patterns, bearish candlestick patterns. If you know your pin bars, if you know your rejection candles, you'd realize that, okay, sellers are actually here. And this was the confirmation to take a sell on NZDCHF, and it went straight into target. Plus the news, the RBNZ news also just, made it faster. It just made it faster and it hit target almost immediately. So this is how that setup on NZDCHF came about, and I posted it on the Telegram community, and also shared some setups on my Instagram page as well. So if you're not following, ensure that you're following. I'm going to share also how the setup on NZD card came about. You can check the next video for that. So this is the setup on NZDCHF in a nutshell. I hope you have found this helpful. If you did, ensure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and turn on notifications, because I'm going to be sharing a lot more tips and lessons to help you improve your trading profitability as well. So this is NZD card. I'm going to share this in the next video. Ensure to look out for it. And yes, I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.